So I just finished my 3 mile run for the 22nd day in a row. Why have I run 3 miles for 22 days in a row? Because it feels good. It feels great. When I get done with my run, I just have such a sense and a feeling of accomplishment. It just powers me through the rest of the day, and I feel like I can attack the day and do anything else. No, 2020 has definitely not been the year we've all expected thus far. I guess that's the old saying, be careful what you wish for. It's not always what you expect. But one of the great things of 2020 so far has, for me at least, has been getting back into running. This is the first year I've ran consistently, or at all for that matter, in about 6 or 7 years. And I am really starting to enjoy it. I would say back in about December, a coworker came up to me and was telling me that he had started running after work a little bit. And he knew I was a former runner. I ran track and cross country in both high school and college. So I had some experience doing it there. But I never really loved running long distances. So when I got out of school, I was like certain that I would never ever run again. I was done with it. But here we are about like 6, 7 years later, and I am running again. So back in December, my coworker asked me just for a few tips on running because he's starting to do it. And I'm talking it over with him, and then I suggest to him that he run a 5K. And I said, you know what, I'll do the 5K with you, So that gave him something to train for. It gave me something to look forward to, a reason to go put on my running shoes and go for some runs. At that point, I actually didn't even have any running shoes, so I had to go down to my local Ross, Dress for Less, and cop some New Balance running shoes for about 30 bucks. It was great. On the road and started running in like mid-December, and I was really enjoying it. The training I did for that were just all very short runs, like a 1 mile run most days, a 2 mile run occasionally, and then maybe a 3 mile run once a week. I was really enjoying like just starting my day with a 1 mile run, so I would just roll out of bed, throw on my shoes, and then go for a run, and basically just run 1 mile as fast as I can. And I would say, so me and my coworker decided to run a 5K together. I asked him if he wanted to do it. He actually did the research on the races and found the Firecracker 5K in Chinatown, Los Angeles. So me and him did that on February the 15th of this year, 2020. And up until that point, I had not run any distance longer than 3.5 miles up until my training for that race. So the Firecracker 5K is actually a really big race here in Southern California. That was my first time really hearing of it, but when I got there that day, like the registration line was just so massive. Like there were about like 12 to 15 tents set up in alphabetical order to find your tent to get your registration bid. And you got a t-shirt, so here's my tee from the race. It was the year of the rat, so they did have a 5K and a 10K option both there. We did the 5K. There were about 2,800 people that competed in that 5K, so almost 3,000 people. And when I went up to the start line, it was like everybody starts at the same time, but the time for your race doesn't actually start until you cross the starting line. Because there's 3,000 people and we're on one street, there was no way everyone could start at the same time. I didn't really know that beforehand going in, just because it had been so long since I'd run a 5K. So when I get to the start line, I'm maybe like 5, 6, 700 people back from the guys in the front. And I worked my way up there a little bit, but there was no way I could just get through that many people to get up to the front. So I started about like 45 seconds to a minute behind the leaders of the race. So by the time I crossed the start line, I'm just kind of dodging and weaving around like some children and some older people just so I can try to get in my full stride. So right then that kind of messed up my psyche a little bit going into the race, and that first mile was primarily uphill. So I was really pushing it that first mile uphill just to kind of catch up with like some of the top groups. And I got up there. I never caught up to the leaders. There were about 4 guys that were way, way ahead that I just had no chance of ever catching. But everyone else, I kind of think I caught back up to them. Like, I at least had them in eyesight where I knew that I could work to try to catch up to them. Now, once we got to the halfway point, for those that don't know, Chinatown is pretty close to Dodger Stadium. And Dodger Stadium is a really, really hilly area here in Los Angeles. So like I was saying, that first mile was pretty steep uphill, but once we hit the 1.5 marker, the halfway point, it was all downhill after that. So when I saw that, I was like, yes, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm gonna run all these guys down that second half of the race. But I had done no strength training, so I was weak. The longest run I did, like I said, was like 3.5 miles, so I didn't have that strength to even turn it on the second half of the race, even though it was downhill. So I finished with a time of 18:47. I think that equates to about 6:02 per mile, and I finished in 10th place. So overall, like getting 10th place was really cool. That felt pretty good. When I told my coworkers, they were all really excited and really happy for me. But I was just a little disappointed with myself. Number one, I did want to be under 6 minutes per mile, and I did want to be under 18. Maybe that wasn't a realistic goal, but you know, I had to shoot for it. So
take off, Astro. Take off, Astro.